chosen, elected as council to get a little closer up here since we've all been vaccinated. We were hoping, had our fingers crossed, so hadn't heard back from you, so it's all right.
But then Mark told us that we would all invaded his space.
I know my personal space is being invaded, so it's like Tom's a little too friendly over here. So, after a year of social and physical distancing, everything feels a little closer than it has recently. But to open our meeting tonight, I've invited Rex Davis, who is the Logan City Arborist. Since Arbor Day is coming up and Earth Day is this week, I thought it would be wonderful if we had Rex come and talk to us a little bit about trees. So Rex is going to share a few words with us, and then please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after you're all done. Thanks, Rex.
Well, hello, council members, mayor. This is my first time ever being here, so if I miss out on some formalities or anything, I do apologize. So I just figured I'll give you a little background. I haven't had a chance to meet several of the council members, so I'll give you a little background on myself, a little background on what it is I do here at the city, and field any questions that you guys might have. My name is Rex Davis. I'm the Logan City Forester. Some people are not really sure what a forester does, so I'll just kind of give a brief overview real quick. We oversee plant health care, risk management, public safety, public outreach, tree inventory, tree appraisal, reforestation, preservation and protection of existing trees, and a little bit of ordinance administration. I've been with Logan City full-time for 13 years. I have a degree in urban forestry management through North Dakota State University. I'm certified in tree work through the Utah Community Forestry Council, and working on my international certifications in tree care as well right now. Right now, as a city forester, I currently oversee general forestry, mosquito abatement, green waste collection, and as many of you are aware, soon I'll be taking on power line clearance as well. That's something I'm really looking forward to. I think a lot of us are looking forward to kind of change the way that tree care is being handled. And we're essentially cutting out the middleman in doing so. A lot of decisions that Asplund had to make had to go through me, and then we had to go back, and it was a really delayed process. We're going to streamline that process and have a better tree care plan moving forward to maintain our Tree City USA status. I have a hardworking crew. I need to give them a shout out while I'm here. They're 100% the reason why I'm able to do my job. I currently have 3 guys in forestry and 2 guys in green waste collection. I'm not sure if the council's aware that I've taken over green waste collection throughout the county as well. So starting to wear a lot of different hats now, but I sure do enjoy it. With Arbor Day being this month, Councilman Anderson has invited me to talk to you a little bit about trees in our city and the importance of working towards a more diverse urban forest. He asked me to keep it short, so I'll try to be very quick. I can talk at least a half hour on each of those topics, but I'm going to get in and get out of here. So currently our park strips, just in the park strip area alone, between the sidewalk and curb and gutter, we've inventoried over 11,000 trees. That's why we are a Tree City USA. If you remember right, I said I got 3 guys who work in forestry with me. So 11,000 trees inventoried. There's still more to inventory. Our goal this year is to inventory more trees than we ever have. To accomplish that, we're going to hire an intern. We're going to do some GPSing and inventory as many trees as we can. Of those 11,000 trees I spoke about, 30% of those are Norway maple. Green ash and honey locust make up an additional 20% of our trees. So in 3 tree species alone, we're sitting at 50% of our urban forest, just in those 3 trees alone. As far as power lines go, many of you are familiar with Joe Archer, my predecessor, but he really loves spring snow crab apples and calorie pears. Man, that guy loves those trees for under power lines, and they're a great choice. They're beautiful trees. They're really great, but they're definitely susceptible to some bacterial infections. The downfall of planting the same species and not being diversified is they become host to borers. They spread fungal diseases and bacterial infections. which we've seen in the form of fire blight in the spring snow crab apples and Calvin pears. Mary, you pointed out some to me down by the zoo. Those are all impacted by fire blight. To remedy this, my crew and I are working on getting more types of tree species in our park strips. The more we can diversify our urban forest, the healthier our overall forest is going to be. As a division, we plan and aim to plant 100 trees per year within Logan City on the park strips. And just kind of touching real quickly on the power line issue that we brought up, we're going to really be focusing on those large Y-shaped trees, majority of which are green ash, which are showing a lot of decay in the branch structure, and we intend on putting the right tree in the right place. We won't be cutting down trees just for the sake of cutting down trees. As a city forester, part of my job is preservation of current trees, but if we see hazards to public safety, to power, things like that, we will be acting accordingly. I kept it under 5 minutes. Any questions? Any questions for me from anyone?
Nice work, Rex.
They also very kindly put up the Christmas decorations.
We do banner installation, all of the lights on Main Street and Center Street. You see, that's also the forestry division that handles that. So
We appreciate their extra.
Wear an elf hat at Christmas time.
yes, I do. I'm getting a lot of hats on there, so trying to do my best.
You said 11,000 trees. Is that just the park strip? Or
Park strips alone, we're not including parks, we're not including city-owned right-of-ways, anything like that. It's just park strips alone.
Is there a master plan for the species that you do plant on each block?
Yeah, not necessarily written down and stamped as a master plan, but yes, we do have a plan moving forward. And that is the diversification of the trees, maybe not the same tree for 3 blocks straight. What it does is it really compounds one small issue and makes it a big issue. Emerald ash borer is on its way. It's on the other side of the Rocky Mountains right now. When that gets here, just under 15% of our urban forest is green ash, and we will be affected heavily by that. So yeah, our master plan, to answer your question, Councilman Jensen, is to continue to diversify.
Thank you.
Anything else from any members, Mayor?
Do we have any role in helping you sustain the healthiness of the trees in the park strip?
Well, I know you do, Councilman Simmons. You've watered some cherry trees that we've planted. We really like to make sure an area has a water source before we plant. In that situation, we figured it was a high traffic area, and it was very nice of you to offer to water those trees. We really appreciate you for that. But
They look pretty this year.
they do. They look very good. So yeah, as a council, no, nothing's needed on your end.
Okay, because I really worry that we spend money on trees and then nobody takes care of them.
Another hard part too, I've actually been speaking with the Parks Department Director, Russ Aquina, about this too, is we handle a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-old kids weed eaters in our parks, and then we end up, a joke between Mark and I, weed eater blight ends up hitting, which is when the weed eaters just kill the trees. So that's another area we're focusing. That's an area where we're going to try to remedy some of that wasteful spending. Most of our trees, we do verify a water source, and we establish contact with the adjoining landowner, and we usually get a pretty good solid commitment from them of watering the tree, at least until it's established. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Center Street looks amazing
It
right
does.
now, so.
Pink flare cherries were a great choice.
Very different tree than what we
yes.
have in our urban forest.
Yes.
And they are in full bloom right now. So Cherry Blossom Festival on Center Street right now. It's
Yes.
absolutely gorgeous.
The cherry blossoms look great. I was just at Great Harvest the other day, and I'm really happy with that selection that we made.
Thanks for all you do, Rex. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Any other questions? Thank you.
Good, all right. If we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
you so much, Rex. You do wear a lot of hats over there and have a lot of responsibility, and thank you so much for your service, for what you do for Logan City. So, all right, moving on. I'm open for motion for acceptance of minutes and the approval of the agenda.
I will move acceptance of the agenda and the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, any changes anybody needs? No? Wonderful. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our 2021 regular meeting schedule is the first and third Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. And our next meeting is May 4th of 2021. Already in May. Can you believe it? It's kind of crazy. All right, questions and comments for the mayor and council. This item has on our agenda has been suspended due to the limit on the number of attendees in the council chambers at this time. We're hoping in the near future to be able to change that, but for now, we thought we would still keep everyone in attendance as safe as possible. So at this point, please email your comments and questions to teresa.harris@loganutah.org. We will distribute them to the mayor and council members. And we do have a letter that was sent, but we will try and pick that up at the end of our meeting, at the end of our agenda on the other considerations, and we'll cover that one as well too. So, Mayor, staff, and staff reports, please.
Great, 2 quick board appointments. Michael Bingham is a new appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board, and on Historic Preservation Committee, we have also appointed, we would like to appoint Jason Pond to join that group, so we would like council's ratification on those 2 individuals, please.
I know both gentlemen and feel confident that they would do a great job. So I move that we ratify that.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'm happy to second that.
Very good. Any discussion before we vote? Did you get to read the? Very nice. Yeah, I thought their resumes were very good. So, okay. All those in favor of ratification, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Ratification carries.
Thank you. Item B on the agenda, we had a request for a proclamation because it is Earth Week to remind folks that 2/3 of songbirds migrate at night, and light pollution from cities can cause these birds to get confused as they fly. So therefore, we're asking everyone to turn out lights at night and encourage everyone to minimize light pollution. So that's just a reminder for Earth Week. Item C, we will have a report on CAPSA services from Bryce Lancaster, who is here. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for letting us come up. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Bryce. I am from CAPSA's education department. We do service awareness and prevention education in businesses, organizations, and schools throughout the valley. And we wanted to, we came in October just to give a kind of quick update on and some indication of what we had been seeing as far as the numbers of people needing help during the past year. And so we wanted to, because it is April and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, do something similar for our sexual assault services and just give a little bit of insight into what we've been seeing there. But first we wanted to just say thank you for y'all's support. For those of you who heard the report in October, it's been a long year and there's been a lot of people who have needed help. And we would not have been able to provide that help without support from our cities and from y'all. So thank you for that support. Though many people are still unaware, sexual assault and sexual abuse are serious problems here in Utah. 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 6 men experience it in their lifetimes. Most of them experience it before they turn 18. CAPSA provides support for those folks, and it's not always quite as well known as our domestic violence services. So we just wanted to speak briefly about some of the specific things we offer, and then encourage people to send anybody who needs it to go get help. One of the things that we do specific for those survivors is we have partnered with Cache Valley Hospital. The hospital offers forensic exams for someone who has experienced rape. Basically, it just makes sure that they're okay, and it collects evidence in case they would like to go or pursue legal justice. It can be an overwhelming process, particularly because it has to come fairly quickly after the event. So CAPSA will send advocates to the hospital to go through that with them and just make sure that they have what they need. They do kind of small things that can sometimes slip through the rafters, like making sure the results are going to the right address, making sure that they have a change of clothes on the way out, and then connecting them with whatever resources they might need. One of those being our caseworkers. So CAPSA's caseworkers will walk alongside survivors as they kind of go through the healing process and kind of decide their options. We pride ourselves and we make a concerted effort to not push anybody towards certain decisions, but to just make sure that they know what's available so that they can choose for themselves what they'd like to do. And our caseworkers help make sure survivors know what's available. We offer therapy, and one of the things that is nice about our service, or about our therapy services, specifically for people who experience sexual assault, is we don't have any time constraints on them. I mentioned a lot of survivors experience that abuse before they turn 18, but it doesn't just go away once they get older. A lot of times it will show back up as they graduate high school or go into college and start looking at real jobs or dating again. And so our therapy service has no time constraints, and we will let those people come in and get help for that. We also support secondary survivors. A lot of times we'll have, especially parents, who will come in and say, you know, if you can make sure that my kid is okay, we'll be fine. We don't have our therapists sit down with them and say, that's probably true, but families move together and heal together. If you can take that time to make sure you're okay as well, then it would be good for your child as well. And then we do prevention education. So we actually go to middle schools and high schools throughout the valley and teach skills-based trainings on healthy emotions, managing emotions, that kind of thing, creating healthy relationships, whether they be dating or with teachers, parents, people in their lives. Just make sure that people are aware of what's happening to them and can know how to keep themselves safe. All of the services that CAPSA offers, we always kind of approach them with a specific saying in mind. It's to start by believing. And we basically just say, you know what, if somebody needs help, we're just going to get them the help they need. Especially as we come to this year and thankfully start to see vaccines going out, but continue to see people struggling and people hurting. We would like to encourage others to join with us in starting by believing, and just encourage them if somebody you know is struggling, that there's help available to send them over. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you for that report. We appreciate that very much. Great. And moving on to item 6D, we will have a report from the Cache Valley Transit District. And Todd Bueller, the director, is in attendance, but we will have the report by Patrick Jenkins, who is the vice chair of the board.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I am not as good looking as Todd, but I will do tonight. I know you have a long meeting, so I'm just not be brief, but I will talk fast. I have two gentlemen that live in my neighborhood, one by the name of Tim Budge, one by the name of Sam Lowe. Both are disabled significantly enough that they will never drive a car. Both are gainfully employed. The way they get to their occupation is on the bus. And that speaks to one of the primary drivers of our bus system is access to all citizens of Cache Valley. Along with that is also a reduction of congestion, especially on Main Street, and a reduction of pollution. We hope that we can achieve a lot of these goals. We're constantly leaning forward to listen to ideas from elected officials and members of the public to better understand how we can deliver on that. But we've had tremendous success over the last year, and Logan City has been one of the greatest advocates of CVTD. As an example of that, you put one of your city council members on our board, and we appreciate that. I know that Jeannie gives you updates on what's going on with the CVTD frequently, so I may be a little bit redundant, but I thank you for giving the CVTD that level of attention. In addition, Logan City has 7 other members of the board. It's by far the best represented entity on the Cache Valley Transit District. I have Glenn Schmidt with me today. We also have Lyle Lundberg, Cecilia Benson, Sue Sorensen, Abraham Verdos, and David Geary, and of course, Councilmember Jeannie Simmons. So thank you for the support. You're well represented. These people are working very hard. A couple just data points that speaks to what's happening with the CBTD right now. Last year we launched the Loop, which are arterial main street servicing entities. You said that word. And Utah State. It's been a great big success. COVID was a tremendous setback for public transportation, as you might imagine, and different than a lot of entities in Logan city boundary. Our mask mandate continues on through May. So that still limits how many people are willing and able to ride the bus, but we're right now hovering somewhere around 2,500 riders per day. We're very happy with the bounce back that's occurring, and we're looking for ways to make those routes more predictable and more efficient. We're also going to be starting our new service facility this year. So here's the ask. I'd like to invite all of you to our bus rodeo, which will happen in August. We're going to teach all of you how to ride a bus. You'll never get a better experience than this. So please come. We're going to give you a sandwich. You're welcome.
Spurs.
Yeah, we're going to get you spurs. Yeah. And we're also going to have you vote on some of the priorities for the facility. We'd like to get your feedback as well. So we're excited about things that are going on. Hiring people is really tough right now. Very, very tough. And so there may be an impact on service and consistency with the buses. We hope not. We hope we're not cutting routes, because so many people like my buddies, Tim Budge and Samuel Lowe, they rely on this. So we're really trying to deliver on this commitment of access. But again, we're always leaning forward. I appreciate all the members of the council and the mayor that have had one-on-one meetings with us so we can hear what's important to you. We're a lagging entity. We follow behind the cities. And so, where you're going, we want to be there too. So that's all I have for tonight, unless you have questions, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mayor, I had mentioned earlier today, I would love to have an update on what we decided with vote by mail and our invitation from the county. And I thought it would be nice to update everyone on what happened, because last time we met 2 weeks ago, we had given you informal approval to go ahead with that plan, but things have changed since then.
That's correct. We had some new information, some additional folks have left the recorder's office. So this is the email that I did send to the county recorder. Logan City has given serious consideration to contracting with the county to run our municipal elections. As you are aware, our city recorder, Teresa Harris, has been running successful vote-by-mail elections for our citizens since 2016, and she is very familiar with that process. As we have discussed, there is a significant cost increase for Logan to contract with the county, and our council did have some concerns about that amount when we discussed it last Tuesday night at council meeting. In addition, this will be a new process for you, meaning Jess, and we understand your newly hired director of elections is leaving. We believe it will be in the best interest of both the city and county if Logan handles our election for at least one additional cycle. That will provide you an opportunity to run your first election as you transition to a new system with a reduced number of ballots to handle, and will allow us an opportunity to assess how a transition to contracting with the county on elections might take place in the future. We have appreciated the county clerk's support in past elections and hope the same level of support will continue, not only for 2021 elections, but future elections. I know we both need to move forward and order our ballots for our respective elections, so I wanted to let you know that Logan City will be handling its own election for 2021.
That's a great letter.
So.
That's still a great letter.
And again, Teresa will, she will need some additional support at that time, but we will provide that at a city level. And again, she's well qualified to run that election, so we appreciate her efforts.
I appreciate the thoughtful consideration of what we had decided last time. And anyone have any comments about that?
I think she, meaning the mayor, expressed that very well, and I think it's a wise decision.
Very good. I volunteered already to help out with the election.
Actually, I don't think elected officials can help with it.
Well, I said I would like greet people at the door and, it's like, I'm not going to count the votes. yeah, so.
Amy wants to.
Yeah. I said-
It'll be your turn to deliver some back and forth.
Yes,
right?
yes, no, I said I would pass out treats, I would, do whatever.
You
so.
would, just so you don't go around harvesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, so. Mayor, thank you so much for that update, I thought that was important that we share that information as well, too. So, moving on to council business, Vice Chair Simmons, any planning commission updates of note?
No, I would say the planning commission update was that for many different reasons, they had to cancel the last planning commission meeting. They didn't have a quorum. So the next report will probably be super long.
Yeah. I saw the agenda, it was substantial.
Yeah, well, now it'd be substantial plus another 2 weeks.
It was substantial. Well, that's a good reason to
I hope
cancel.
everyone had safe travels and whoever was ill is better,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's a good reason to cancel the meeting if there
Yes.
was no quorum, so. All right, thank you for your update. Next on our agenda is our voting systems discussion. We have gotten a lot of information back from our respective cities that we were assigned. Some of us have had a few delinquent cities to have to work with as well too that didn't want to be forthcoming with their information. But we've all forwarded all that information to Jeannie, who painstakingly put it into a spreadsheet format, got that to us today. But just wanted to open the discussion and see what y'all felt. We have a lot of data to have to analyze from all these discussions we've had with various cities around the country, not just in Utah, so.
What I found, I talked to 2 cities, one that was a mixed, where they have specific
Hybrid?
districts, hybrid
Hybrid,
things.
yeah.
Hybrid, and then some at large, and then a city that was strictly district. And in reviewing briefly the information Jeannie gathered for us, it's interesting, like every city likes the way they do it.
That's exactly what I saw too. It's like every city we interviewed, they all think theirs is the best. Yeah, we're the best,
So,
yeah.
that was kind of an interesting, I think it's encouraging that people believe that they're doing things in the best way to represent their city. One of the other takeaways I had from both Provo and Murray was, we're looking at potentially changing to one of those 2 things. Both of those cities this week are also addressing the issues of voter engagement and voter participation. So even though they have a different model than we do, they still struggle with issues of how do you get people to vote? How do you encourage diverse individuals to run? So I forwarded you all the Provo presentation that was done to their city council today. And then I also got some information from Murray today. They are actually setting up a diversity ad hoc committee to try to address those issues in their community. So I think as we look at this overall, I think it's important we bear in mind that this may not be a one solution issue. It might be the need. The other thing I found really fascinating is Provo has 34 different neighborhood councils. We think 5 here
Is a lot.
is a lot, but that's something that they've been putting into place to try to encourage participation and information.
They really have 34.
And having their citizens feel connected. So again, I think besides the voting, I think there's some other things we could look at in terms of strengthening our neighborhood councils. Are they too big? Are they too small? Do we have to have a different process for trying to engage people, to have people willing to step up as chairman? Do they need, projects or committees? So anyway, that was my initial takeaway beyond the voting system, was just everyone's looking for solutions to how do we keep our citizens engaged and feel represented.
That information you sent over from Provo, I got to look at that this afternoon. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I can send everybody the Murray, why they're setting up the committee. They were going to vote on that today and assign people, but
Great.
can learn from others.
So Tom, I think I'm gonna talk anymore, I can't, I've looked at all this stuff.
You were typing all day today, I understand, so.
The mayor that you spoke with, they have 34 or something committees that they're actively working with. Isn't that correct?
24, I think.
24?
Is that Manhattan, Kansas?
Manhattan?
Manhattan, Kansas.
I don't know, well, yeah, I'm sorry, I got it mixed up.
Yeah, I know, I wasn't talking correctly either.
Well,
But Manhattan. I
no,
mean,
that's
there's
correct.
34
My
neighborhoods in
comment on
Logan.
Manhattan is that it mirrors Logan very well. The population, the student population. Talking to the mayor, I mean, can't believe anybody more genial. He took a cell phone call after hours on a Friday night. He says, "We can talk all night. I love talking to you." I wanted to move to Manhattan. I mean, it was just, not that you wouldn't.
Okay, Tom.
Well,
I think Mayor Daines would do that too.
they have at
Move to
large,
Kansas or talk
No,
on the
talk on the
phone?
phone, yeah, talk on the phone.
My cell phone's on the city website.
they have at large, and they think it works just fine. What's interesting is that their county has district, and he says it's a mess. You know, they have people in highly diverse areas, and they're not trying to focus on the whole group, they're focusing on just their neighborhood. And so, you know, that's a negative strike on that. You know, my question is, what problem is out there that making a change would solve? I think that came from Jeannie. And I shared with Jeannie an idea that would probably go into the Provo idea, you call it Provo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where, I don't know if you want to get in detail now, but it would be a reach out to what we're trying to, maybe the people, district people would like to do, is to engage neighborhoods on a stronger basis. Maybe there's an incentive of some kind. I don't know what it is. But that they could come and report to the council, either monthly or every other month. And there'd be an incentive so that people would want to be part of it. I know the Wilson neighborhood at least has been a very strong neighborhood organization, and they have reached out. Sometimes they're troublemakers, but I think
Just Gail. That's
just kidding. But I think the main thing is that they reach out and they're looking for issues in the neighborhood that they could solve. Now, what if we had that on 5 or 7 or 8 neighborhoods? Number one, we would hear about the issues in the neighborhood. People would feel more engaged. And people that would like to be involved in the city, in the council or something, could start out by being a leader in their neighborhood and show leadership and engage. And then when time for the election came along, they would have a heads up, you know, a leg ahead, I guess is a better analogy. So I'd like to flush that idea out because I think it would be a reach out toward what is trying to be solved. I will say, just as I'm speaking here, that the biggest reasons to, in my mind, to go to districting is that it would be much easier to campaign. You know, you can walk a district, you can't walk a city, but you can do other things. We've all campaigned.
We have a lot of trails through the city, Tom. You can get all the way through the city now.
Well, as the city's growing, I tried to walk as much as I could last time, and it was really hard.
It's
Well, you
hard.
had back problems too.
Yeah.
And I did have some broken legs.
So you're suggesting that we try and increase engagement with some more activity on the neighborhood?
I think it would go a long way.
I want to interject that I think Amy said something really important and Tom said something really important. And one was Provo has 34 neighborhoods.
Those are home evening groups.
No, they're not. And, you know, I think that between that and Kansas probably has 24 issue-specific committees that each council person is assigned to. You know, they're assigned to these different committees and they're run by the city. So somewhere in between, I think our neighborhoods are too big right now. They're too, you know.
They're really stretched out.
Well, and somebody said, one of the cities, and I honestly can't remember right now, said they had nothing related to school boundaries in their city. And I think that, you know, perhaps we have changed enough over time that the school, having a school boundary is not a neighborhood necessarily. And so maybe we need to work toward redefining what the neighborhoods are and, or have sub-neighborhoods of something. And maybe they might get more engaged when it's not such a large task, it's a more easily identified task.
I saw that too, with them saying we don't have anything to do with school boundaries whatsoever. So what's the population in Provo? Isn't it double? It's a little.
116, and Murray is about our size. Murray, actually, they have one district that doesn't even have a school sitting in it, in their districting.
So.
And I did hear clearly, though, that from both of those communities that they did feel that campaigning was a lot easier in the district. Provo has 2 at-large seats as well as 5 district seats, and that they've had more people run for the at-large, though, than they do in the districts if you look at the number of candidates. But that it definitely, districts does bring a sense of more representation, in their opinion, to their citizenry. So,
But they also have never had anything else.
they had the same thing since 1981.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, we had
They're
all
just
those questions about if you've changed, and everyone was like,
No, I haven't
but
changed.
one person's like, I don't even know when we did this.
So-
Ever since I've been in high school, we voted this way.
Let me just clarify, those 34 committees were special interest. For example, on dogs or on parks or on recreation or gun safety or whatever it is. And it allowed citizens to get involved clearly on a committee that's friendly to what their interest is. And the mayor hears about it every month.
So similar to the boards that we're currently running, the boards and
Right.
committees that we're running.
But they
So we have
expanded.
quite a few of those,
Yeah.
we have quite a few of those too. I guess, without having an answer to this question, and not knowing what the answer is like, how valid of a reason for changing is making it easier to run? Is that a valid reason for changing a voting system because it makes it easier for people to run? I don't know the answer.
For
So
me, that ties into that diversity and inclusion, that if financially it's difficult to run, interestingly, I think both the cities I talked to, there's a fee to run. I want to say it's $75 to run for office, so
to pay.
we at least don't charge people to run.
That would be
Which I kind of found
a
interesting.
barrier to participation.
Yeah, it's a barrier. They do waive it if people can state that that's a hardship for them.
But it is interesting, Amy, that for the at-large seats, they have more people run.
And I think it's a barrier to running when you have to go head-to-head against someone. At an at-large system, you're simply running, you can talk about the issues, you're not talking about an individual that you're running against. And then, again, I think it's more of an issue-based election and people then make.
I think the election we just had in 2019 and the 3 of us were running, there was nothing negative said about any of the candidates that I can recall.
One of the thoughts I had is with districting, the qualification is geography. I mean, that's one of the qualifications. At large, it's interest, experience, intelligence, all these things. And I was thinking, in my neighborhood, I would have to run against Holly, and I would lose. Well, at one time, you were on the council, and Lorraine Swenson. So that would have precluded either Lorraine or me from being on the council. Same thing as Herm Olson, it would have precluded you from being on the council.
Wait a minute.
I would have promoted them from being on the council.
Yes.
You're pretty quick on that. So,
She just moved.
Yeah.
well, she did move.
It's still in the same area, but.
I just think the qualification of the individual is the highest value, and we ought to be looking out through the whole city.
Other comments?
Well, I will say, just in putting this all together and in talking, I spoke with Ames, Iowa, and I was supposed to speak with Bloomington, Indiana, but they were too busy. And the gentleman from Ames, Iowa, was very clear when I asked him that, we were talking just generally about elections, and then I sent him the survey questions. He said that they don't have people stay in office very long. And he said, as a matter of fact, he said, because we have a university in our town, often or sometimes there'll be a student who will decide that they really want to be a part of the city council, and lo and behold, after a year, they resign because they graduate or they're too busy or something else. So he says that is not, that is a challenge for them. It's a challenge for them to have the continuity. And I did not hear from, in putting all this information in, we talked about the differences in economic or minority status, and I would say that some of the cities have minority representation. A lot of the cities seem to think it was really, really good that they had a lot of women participating, because it used to be all white men. One city said that.
And at-large seats actually promote more women candidates, correct?
Right. And so, I don't know that, I guess it's hard for me to determine whether, everybody likes the one they've got. And that's a little hard to argue with, I guess.
So it's kind of interesting, Provo has their 5 districts, as they were describing them, it almost paralleled Logan, even though they're a very different community. They have a settled, older, wealthier district. They have one that's primarily rental units that surrounds the university. They have one that's a newer area that's more young families. They have an area that's central that has more young professionals. So from that perspective, they felt that because there were more of those kind of commonalities that clustered, it did ensure that people had somebody who looked more like them in office. But by having the overlying at-large, that if somebody felt something very strongly about their a need for their type of neighborhood, they had to convince the 2 at-large and at least one other district representative to back them so that they had a 4-3 majority. So it did lead to more conversations amongst council members lobbying for positions, as opposed to when people represent the entire city.
It must have been really nice in Provo for them to realize that all the old people were living here and all the, young professionals were living here and all the young families were over here. It was like, oh, don't buy over there, you're in the young family area.
I think it's not exclusive, but in generalities. I will say the most fascinating thing, I told Jeannie this, in one of the citywide races in Provo last year, one of their candidates spent $62,000. The other candidate spent $23,000.
And the
$23,000 one won.
And the $23,000 candidate won, and they're paid about $15,000 a year. I also found out that they have staff in Provo. They have.
But it's still a part-time position, right?
The council is, but they have people.
We have
a media special, like a social media specialist. They've got an executive assistant. They're definitely bigger than we are. But she was like, your city recorder does all of that. I can't even imagine how she can do all of that. So,
Which wouldn't allow us to have more people.
I find it oddly reassuring that almost every city that we talk to has the exact same problems that we do. Found that very, very interesting. They all deal with the same
I would
same
call them
issues.
challenges, not problems.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a better word. Yeah. Because they're not bad. It's just we all deal with the same challenges.
So districts, did they have low voting in?
Yeah?
So it didn't solve the problem?
No.
yeah, you had Ogden.
Yeah, I got to speak with Ogden, and
They have a hybrid system, a mixed system, and
Did they just change?
not recently.
Okay,
no.
all right, I was thinking they just changed.
And one of the council members that I got to speak with, she's one of the district seats, and she says, yeah, I wish, quoting her, let's see, where'd it go? Let's see. I wish people understand how the local representatives and their decisions impact their daily lives, referring to the low turnouts even in her district. So, yeah, it was interesting because I was very interested in the hybrid system, learning more about it.
I make one more comment. A individual who was in office maybe 10, 12 years ago indicated, because there was a complaint saying, well, it's hard for somebody on the west side to get elected. And that's because, what? I don't know. And anyway, somebody came to me and said, 10 or 12 years ago, there was 4 out of the 5 people west of Main Street. Steve Thompson, Dean Coyle, Tammy Pfeiffer, Joan Needham. So, and then there was 2 mayors in the past from west of Main Street, Nickel and Darla Clark. Just as a input.
I did find also too in that question about if you have districts, how often are they reviewed? And looking at Jeannie's consolidation too, it seems like everybody relies on the census and it's done every 10 years. And so I did hear from Murray that their recommendation was we not do anything until after the census was out, because if we did something, we would either have to be on a longer cycle or not. But and in Provo they opened up to the community that they could submit what they thought would be the appropriate district maps, and they had over 60 submissions that they whittled through the last time that they looked at census tract information to try to clarify what their districts would be. I think 20 years ago they did a significant one so that they could make that central district kind of the older downtown Provo. But otherwise, Murray said there's really, the boundaries rarely have changed over the last few years.
Seems like some of the cities that we dealt with, they didn't really have a choice. They were mandated by the state of what their voting system was. Did you experience that?
Yes, I would say that the one I spoke with said by state law, all of it said by state law.
That was one of these ones outside of the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that in Salt Lake County, in some ways they're set as well. But I don't know.
It's those townships in Salt Lake County, they have to.
Right, so, but elsewhere in Utah, it's not set.
I interviewed Orem, Sandy, and Riverton, and Orem is probably the largest city in Utah that's still at large. And they were adamant that their way is the best, and that all of their citizens are represented quite well. They were pretty vocal.
What's their population?
They're like 100,000 too. I can't tell you exactly off the top of my head, but they're right around 100,000. And they were very, very vocal about how things work there. But they also felt that their citizens were represented. But you know, that's their point of view as well too. Sandy is a hybrid, and Riverton is district. I got very interesting answers from them as well too. I'm kind of like Ernesto. I'm interested in exploring some more on the hybrid. I think if we were to look at anything different, I would be most interested in looking at a hybrid version. But I don't know, at this point where we have some other options that are being explored by other cities with the ranked choice. And I was hoping we could get some information from a city that was running ranked choice, but it looks like we're gonna have to wait to see what everybody does this year. I think that's a valid option for us to look at as well too. I know that can cause some problems with the voting itself, but I think that's something we should look at, especially if our costs are gonna continue to increase. And so Teresa and I were talking costs this week, and it's substantial. it's a lot. If we have to do what we're doing, we're talking $100,000. And I had staff take a look at the cost of what other counties are charging for voting, for the mail voting, and it was all over $2 a vote. It was like $2.25. I don't know who sent that over, but
Weber County's
Weber.
$1.80.
Oh, they're $1.80, so they're pretty close. I'm concerned that cost is going to go up. So I think those are some major concerns that we need to address as well too before we look at anything.
I did an interview, or there is one city that, if you don't get 35% of the vote, you don't win. And then you have to have a runoff election, and the runoff election has to happen on the first Monday of the month following the irregular election.
So they don't do a primary, they just go straight to a general?
No, they have a primary too. And the guy said that he hoped that they could eliminate one of those.
That would cost even more.
Yeah.
That would cost even more. So I think there are some options there too. Any other thoughts, Ernesto, that you want to share? I mean, everybody's kind of covered a lot of different things tonight. So
When I first got appointed, shortly after I got appointed, I did receive an email or two from citizens who were advocating for ranked choice for our city as well. So just wanted to
I think it's worth taking a look at as well too. But you know, at this point, as a council, where would you like to go? What would you like to do? And we have elections coming up pretty soon. I think we've heard enough from the state and from some other cities that recommending we should probably wait. The state is taking it very seriously about making sure we have census information before they do anything.
I hate to keep kicking the can down the road though, like I know we've looked at this, or it's been, it was brought up a while ago, and I don't know that I feel like we're prepared to figure out how to do districts if we would make that recommendation, how in a timely manner to be able to do it by the election this fall at all. So that would be my biggest hesitancy. I think when we started this process, I was hopeful that we would have a decision like in the fall, and that then we would have time to get everything squared away, because people have to start identifying by the first week of June. The candidate information packet has to be out by a certain date.
Well, June 1st.
June 1st, so.
I've already started to order supplies, so.
Yeah, so I'm disappointed it's taken this long for us to come up with a final determination. But I also feel like we should have more maybe of a set timeline of what the next step is and then the next, so that it doesn't just feel like this nebulous, are we ever going to make a decision? Is anything ever going to happen?
I think this is too important of a decision for us to rush, for sure. So that's just me.
I think it's, well, go ahead.
I agree with Amy that we should probably very soon determine a timeline of what we want to do and stick to it to make a decision. Probably take into consideration that the census will be out, and take that into consideration when we plan the timeline.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I also think it's critical, whatever we decide to do, that we identify why we're doing it, what the reasons are that we've made it, whatever choice we make.
What we're hoping to accomplish if we do make a change, or what we're hoping to accomplish if we don't make a change.
Right, well, and I think that if we feel like the enhancement of neighborhood councils or the changing of neighborhoods or something like that is important to determine engagement or something like that, that might come first, I don't know. But I think we need to weigh all of those pieces in whatever way we move forward.
I think that's an important part of an important component of what we're trying to do, is get that extra engagement. So, yeah.
I will say, I know that Mayor Daines addressed that in her campaign. I know I talked about the importance of neighborhood councils I think we have seen some improvement in certain areas of our city, but there's certainly been a lack of enthusiasm. I know Bridger's really struggled with finding a chairman, with getting meetings rolling.
We now have a chair for Bridger, which we'll start on. But again, that's one discussion we've had, and initially, I thought we would meet monthly with neighborhood council chairs. Frankly, no one wants to meet that often. We've let it become more just organic. What works for them? If they have a hot issue, let's meet and discuss it. If it's, more routine work, they can decide when they come to us. We've also talked about, again, creating smaller areas within the districts. Again, most of them are very large, so those are certainly things we could still talk about. Again, we've just found by experience that monthly is much too frequently.
I also thought maybe what we should do as a council in the interim is create another bullet point under our reports that is an open mic opportunity for neighborhoods to come and share what's going on in their neighborhood, and neighborhood council chairs could bring issues to us or whatever they would like to do. But it wouldn't be set like Bridger has to show up this week, but it could just be an open mic sort of situation where they have that opportunity, and if nobody's here, then we just go
Are they
around.
gonna play the acoustic guitar and sing as part of the open mic, or are they gonna be?
Is that could be an option?
It also was that we were assigned to a neighborhood, and I'm not sure that has been,
Well, if they don't meet, it's like.
well, I know
Yeah.
that.
And COVID has thrown a monkey wrench in that too,
I tried with Adams, and they have put out word to try to organize their thing, but I have not heard back.
I've had some really good conversations with Melissa Daly, with Woodruff, and we've had very productive,
Woodruff's been very active.
Yeah, I feel like we've built a relationship where if she feels something is important, she will reach out to me, and I've done the same thing with her, and it's been very productive. I felt really good about
And
that.
Wilson has reported back to me. Again, we had a really strong chair in Adams for a while, but then the new chair had some health issues and precluded their involvement. So, we're restructuring a couple. We also have some big projects coming up in a couple of neighborhoods. So I think you all have the dates, but we do have neighborhood meetings for Woodruff and Hillcrest. The last, the 29th of April and the 6th of May. So you're welcome to come to those. Again, it has to be an issue that people feel some passion about to get them involved. And we have potential new parks in those neighborhoods, and we're soliciting input and, guidance. We would like feedback. So again, I think those will matter to people, and they'll hopefully come and give us feedback.
I don't want to be complacent enough to believe this, but maybe we do a pretty good job and people are fairly happy.
Actually, I think that's part of it. That is true, because when people are upset about something, you hear about it. And if there's a problem in the neighborhood, then they band together. So I think it actually is an indication that we're doing fairly well and that people are generally happy. I mean, we can always improve, and we always try and do that.
No news is good news.
We could create some problems, and that would stimulate some.
So
I don't want to go there.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, council, is we need to create a timeline that is sensitive to the census data that we're waiting for. And maybe we would explore some other options. I know you would like to work with Ogden a little bit more. Yeah, that's what you mentioned the other day, so. Yeah. Are you okay with that? Like build a timeline and try and,
So let it be done.
look at more options.
I also think that a change in an off-election year is a good idea as well.
Yeah.
So that
Instead of an election year.
instead of an election year, so.
Are you okay with that? I will visit with all of you. Maybe we can put a timeline together and
Do we know when the census data will be out?
the state is anticipating fall. And they're supposed to be on January, yeah, and it's like,
And they are waiting because they have the districting at independent.
and they have to make a decision by like a certain time in November, I think it is. So their timeline is really, really short. So as of right now, we're anticipating getting that sometime in maybe August or September.
Is there anything we can do between now and then to kind of be ready for that information.
Because I think the census would be more specifically as if we're looking at district or a hybrid, that would be how are we gonna set the districts up? So I don't think we need to wait to make a decision until the census information. That would really just be the determinant of if districts, what would they look like? I think it would be interesting to bring in like Lyle Hilliard, who is now on the state districting committee, to talk to us about. I mean, I know he'd been asked many times by the state to participate, and he waited till he was out of office. But if there's individuals that could start to address.
Talk about how that process works.
How that process work. I know Murray, it's the city clerk makes the recommendation, and then the council approves any redistricting. Like I said, Provo did one where they opened it up to the public, so it looks like there's also lots of different ways to try to identify what your district should look like.
I've already talked to Lyle about doing that. I will invite him to come at a specific time in the near future. How about that? So I did. I think on your recommendation, Amy.
Let's say one other thing is that right now the school districts, I'll use Wilson for an example. You live on the far northeast of Wilson.
Yes.
Gail lives on the far southwest of Wilson, right? And you don't really have much in common. It's really two far distant neighborhoods. And I'm thinking maybe we talk about a size. You know, I understand my little neighborhood of Sumac, Thrushwood. Gail probably understands hers, you understand yours, which means that it ought to be more of a bite size.
You're talking for neighborhood councils or?
Yeah, neighborhood
General.
geography.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that gives me a lot to work with. I will reach out to Lyle Hilliard to come and discuss the process of districting with us, and then we can start to formulate a timeline if we want to make some changes.
I'm not done talking.
Oh, okay,
No,
go ahead.
We had that section of questions about how did you determine communities of interest?
Yes.
It was very intriguing that the two I talked to had no idea what I was talking about. When I said, how do you define a community of interest as you look at districts? It was just, they were both like, it's just pure population driven. It's like, we have to have equal sized districts and that's all we do. So.
Which we have to do too.
Yeah, but it is interesting that as you look at that concept, that you should try to make sure that there's communities of interest are represented in a districting thing, but the ones that did districts didn't utilize that model.
But usually those communities of interest are geographically distinct. And that's when they become a community of interest that would spark, would become geographically a district or become part of a geographic district.
I think that's our biggest issue to deal with is if we do decide to go to districts, how do we redistrict? That's a major concern for at least for me. So we got to figure out how that would work before we even consider making any sort of change. So that sound good? Okay, y'all are good if we move forward with that? Mm-hmm. Thank you for a lively and thoughtful discussion. All right, let's move on to our action items. Public hearing, budget adjustments, resolution 21-20. Richard Anderson, Finance Director.
We discussed these last time. A request to appropriate $13,463 for various third-party reimbursements to the police department for overtime shifts. Most of these are state government as well as private parties here in the valley.
Any comments? Pretty straightforward. Did a wonderful job last time sharing that with us, Rich. All right, we will open that up to the public for discussion. If anyone in the public would like to make a comment on resolution 21-20, now is your opportunity. We did not receive any emails asking for Rich's resignation, so. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Everyone would just say that was a good thing earlier. It's not seeing no one interested in commenting on a resolution. Let's bring it back to the council. I'm open for a motion, council.
I'll move that we approve 21-20.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the council? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. All right, public hearing for Resolution 21-21. Again, Rich Anderson.
As we discussed last time, this is a request to approve a loan from the electric fund to the library for $4 million at an interest rate of 1.69%, amortized over 10 years with the balloon payment being the last payment. This will give us the funding we need in order to build the library at the current budget.
Without
Raising property taxes.
There you go.
Again, at the current budget.
Very nice.
Should that change, so would my
Jobs status.
Lots of other things can change, right?
Yes. So exciting. We actually discussed that yesterday at the library board meeting, and they were thrilled with that option. I think it gives us some great options. So
just a couple pieces of information. We have set this at 1.69% because that was the rate where the treasury was 2 weeks ago when we started this process. It's since has fallen. That was the peak, so I can really pick them. But it's only dropped a very small amount.
yeah, very small amounts.
So we still think it's within the range.
Within that margin of error.
You said it was possible to alter that if we
It's very easy to refi, so if later this year, before we build the library, we want to refinance that, we can do it just through the same process we just went through, assuming it is approved.
We want to lock it in at that low rate as much as possible. Great. Thank you, Rich. We will open up Resolution 21-21 for public comment. If anyone would like to comment on this resolution, now's your opportunity. Please state your name and where you live, and make sure and sign in, please.
I will do that.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Again, this is Dr. Gail Yost. My master's degree is in instructional technology, and which is close to library science. And I've always loved libraries. I started volunteering in libraries in my 7th grade class. So my home has probably 9,000 to 10,000 books. I'm only up to 6,000 as far as cataloging right now. The library is so important to every kind of district, every kind of group that you can think of. It is the most democratic service that our city gives because anybody can go in and use it. Unfortunately, the time that it's going to take to build the new one is going to make it a little harder for people to get into a library, but they can still use the services of the library. And I have been a friend of the Logan Library since its inception. And even if, don't say this to the chair, but even if they charged me more for membership each year, I would pay it. Because I believe in books. I believe in learning. The non-reader lives but one life. The reader lives thousands. And I'm a reader of a lot of fiction. I had enough nonfiction in graduate school and foster care and special ed. I like fiction. I like being able to have a good ending that is fair to people. It's not about whether people live or die. It's about having the possibility of seeing fairness in the world, of seeing people come together and care about each other. And you can only do that through books. As the stories that they put on film, the stories they put on TV, just don't give you the ideas that you can put in your own imagination. So please, please pass this resolution, please, because we need it so much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Thank you so much. We'll bring it back to council for motion.
I move we approve resolution 21-21.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we need to discuss? Any discussion? All those in favor of passing resolution 21-21, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So excited about the library, yes. Just wait till you see what we're designing. Mayor, when is the next design meeting, by the way?
We're waiting for a date. We're waiting for a date, probably in the next week to 10 days.
I can hardly wait. Okay, next public hearing on ordinance 21-07, proposed rezone. Tanya Rice, would you please share that with us?
Me too.
Is that what you intended to do?
Perfect, that's exactly what I did.
All right.
Alrighty, let's see if it shows up.
It looks like
Very
it.
good. Alrighty. Thank you all. This is a proposed rezone for Brickyard at 800 North, 500 West. It is asking the proponent is asking to rezone from commercial to mixed use. It's a 0.8 acre corner lot, as you can see right here. To give a little perspective, we have Smith's Marketplace, Mount Logan Middle School, a park, Bridgerland Park, and then a mile away is Bridger Elementary School, so it's in the Bridger district. It's one block off Main Street. This is a fairly centrally located location for a mixed-use zone. On the flub, here's our project location. On the flub, it shows the properties to the west as commercial and a mixed-use area just a little northwest of the property. That differs from the zoning currently in that there is MR12 just west of the property and a little bit north of the property. And then this is commercial, community commercial. So
Community commercial?
it's called community commercial, CC.
What is it?
It is commercial that is intended for.
Oh, it's the Eagles Lodge, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it? Okay.
And that realtor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna summarize just a little bit the differences between the two zones. The commercial, they're very similar actually in nature. The commercial is intended to be on a high-capacity road. It's focused on retail, hospitality, service industry. The mixed use is intended to be a little bit more pedestrian-oriented and a bit higher density. It is also slightly more restrictive in the types of land uses that are allowed. In the mixed use, in the mixed use zone, there are no automotive services, no gas stations or retail, automotive retail, things like that. There's no light manufacturing or utility structures. It does not permit commercial parking lots, and of all things, no shooting ranges near the residents. That's where. Another major difference is
What about axe throwing and archery?
Well, axe throwing is right. I was wondering if one of you were going to ask that.
Like, wait a minute, yeah. So,
Well, there you go. Maybe that's more confined or
we need to
something.
involve Chief Jensen with that.
This is true. One of the primary differences in the two zones is that the mixed use their commercial is based on acreage. So in this particular case, with a 0.8 acre lot, well, up to 3 acres, you only need 1,500 square feet of commercial. So big, big difference. In terms of residential, both allow for 30 units per acre. The mixed use residential, the mixed use has a more residential flair and allows for higher density. In the mixed use, you can have housing on the ground floor, where in commercial, you have to have the entire ground floor commercial oriented. And in the mixed use also, you can have a freestanding building should the lot and size of the property permit. So those are the primary differences between the two. Let's see. Here's a closer look at the property. The majority of the, so right here, just to orient again, this is the axe throwing. That's funny, not funny. This is Love to Cook and Wimmers, so that kind of gives you, right over here is Smith's Marketplace. The property, the majority of the street frontage is 50 West. It's a corner lot that used to be a mobile home park, and it is currently vacant with several trees. This particular stretch right here is used right now as parking, I would imagine, for the MR12 visitors or maybe some business. Jeannie asked a question during the workshop a couple weeks ago, and I looked into that. Her question was, is this sidewalk on a private property, or is it part of, or could the street be widened? And the answer is that it is on private property. The street has a 33-foot right-of-way. So at the time of development, whenever that should be in whatever zone it is, that cross-section, that street cross-section will be determined by Public Works and Planning based on what's permitted.
And then they have to have a curb gutter, sidewalk, and a park strip.
Not necessarily. It depends. We will work within the range of uses. And Bill might, yeah, I mean, it depends on what's happening here, and it depends on what, how much we have, and how much, it's 33-foot right of way, that's what I know. So what can fit in there is undetermined. There is, that will just be something that Public Works will have to work out.
I mean, I guess Paul.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him in the corner over there.
I talked to Bill today, and he says that it just depends on, I mean, we've got 33 feet to deal with.
So there may be no curb gutter and sidewalk.
It's possible. If you look right down here, this is Logan Glass. They've got a little bit of a green strip. Bill did say that it could be a 22-foot wide street with a little bit of park strip and a sidewalk.
But don't they have a curb there at Logan Glass?
Soft curb,
They do.
a roll curb.
Do we really permit new developments without curb and gutter and sidewalk?
This is built in 1999, so I'm not sure Logan Glass was.
This piece of property, do we?
Oh, well, we have curb and gutter, but I don't know if there's a sidewalk or a park strip.
Well, there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street, so.
That's right. That's right. But if
I mean, their intent is to do housing, right?
that would be the reason for changing the zone, is to increase housing.
Unless they can accommodate sidewalk, it doesn't seem like a.
We're going to require curb gutter or sidewalk at a minimum. It'll be required, whether we get a partial grid or not, maybe integral to the curb and gutter. But yes, there will have that minimum street improvement in there. It just has to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was a little worried. Thank you.
I just don't know the answer because of the size of the street, and Bill's my man. Bill answers those questions for me.
We can work it out.
But I think we require sidewalk,
Yeah, it sounds.
no matter what. So
I hope so. When Bill and I were talking today, I said, all I want is a 8-foot wide sidewalk bike lane, and he laughed. Teasing, but it's the truth. I mean, hopefully, we will make the best situation of it, regardless of what goes there, regardless of what zone it is.
Okay.
Oh,
and I counted, there's like 16 trees on that piece of property.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
I
And
went
a whole lot of.
I went by 2 and looked at it.
Mobile
so-
home slabs too. Fifth West is significantly in disrepair in general. This is the parking area that is currently used as pull-in, pull-out, which is no longer permitted. The sidewalk that dead ends into Logan Glass.
So that was an interior sidewalk at one point in time.
It was likely put in as part of the
mobile
home park. Yeah. This is another angle, just looking south. These are the fourplexes across the street in the NR12 zone, MR12 zone. Better angle. And then yet another angle. So we had one comment, and that was from Logan City Schools, opposed to the rezone. And the PC, the Planning Commission voted 5-1 in favor of the rezone.
Did the email say why they were opposed? I'm kind of curious.
The city?
No,
It was the school
the
district.
school district, yeah.
Rental issue.
Rentals.
Rentals instead of homes. Okay, got it.
If that's what is intended there.
Okay.
So that concludes what I have to tell you. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Given the size of the property and the setbacks that are required for the sidewalk and everything and parking, how many units do you estimate could be built on that location?
30 units per acre. There's a height, probably 40, if they get the height density, the bonus density.
You think they could put 40 units on that piece of property?
We have to go up, but that would be the max.
Mike, do you think they could get that many on there?
You doing the math?
30 units to the acre, that's only 0.80.
0.8, so probably, not.
So maybe 20, 24. They gotta park it, that's the biggest use of property is parking.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Biggest use is parking. The biggest
Parking
use
takes
of
the
property.
land up.
Yeah, that's why I was asking how
But
many.
they also have to have the 1,500 square feet of commercial.
I was just trying to figure out how many, you say you could put that many on, but then you've gotta do.
So I was thinking an acre, so 0.8 acre, less than 30.
You could ask the developer when it's open for public comment. They're here.
What his plan is.
Okay. Any other questions for Tanya? All right, let's open that up for public comment. Ordinance 21-07, potential rezone. If anyone would like to comment, now is your opportunity.
Does anybody want to tell me how many units they figure they can put on 0.8 acres?
I'm sorry?
No, I was understanding the proponent was here.
If the
so-
proponent would like to speak, yes, you
Please
have.
come forward.
My name is Jake Thompson. So it really depends, like Mike said, it depends on the number of doors in commercial. It's really gonna be restrained by the parking. I think if it was one bedroom, it's 1.5 cars per unit.
Depends on the number of bedrooms.
That's the number of bedrooms. So if it's a 2-bedroom, there's 2 cars that are needed for that individual unit. So if you've got 20 units in there, you're gonna need 40 parking stalls in addition to the commercial. So we're gonna be restrained by that concept of having that amount of parking stalls that would accommodate the number of people and the commercial that's intended there. So it's kind of, I don't know if I answered that question or not. It's kind of a roundabout way of, I don't have a concept necessarily right now for it. But once that is proposed, that will have to be, or through the design review, we'll have to make sure that those do fit those ordinances that the city has, that it can accommodate the type of people that are in this particular use.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes.
My name is Blake Parker. I've been the listing agent on this property since 2006. And the rezone is really needed because you can see from the aerial, the old Redwood Theater, now Kitchen Meats, blocks any view from Main Street from a commercial standpoint. Visibility, access, traffic count, 50 West, you probably count the vehicles per day on two hands. For that reason, single family, multifamily is really the highest and best use of the property. We've tried many different ideas there. We did have Popeye's restaurant coming there once, but we lost that to some street trees. But again, a rezone is really what's needed to make any use of this property. Obviously, parking issues and everything are obvious. Some trees are going to have to go, but yeah, the mobile home park left in 2006, so it has sat vacant that long. So, thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Blake. Anyone else? Let's bring it back to council for action or discussion.
As we look at trying to make a more walkable city, this location makes sense to me because you can walk across the street to Smith's, you can walk 2 blocks to.
Taking your life into your hands.
Well, the natural grocer is,
Oh, that's right. That's just a block away.
So.
2 blocks, sorry.
From that perspective of walkability, which I know raises a big concern with some other mixed-use projects, is we're creating these islands that people will still need to take their cars in and out. As I was looking at this, to me, I was like, always a hesitancy about taking away commercial, but to me, this helps to make that a sellable point that mixed use makes sense in this location.
The interesting thing to me, though, is that the only place you can walk from there to Natural Grocers is in the middle of the street.
Well, you walk up to Main Street, and you cross the traffic lights. It's.
Well, but what I'm saying is there's not very much sidewalk along that street, so I would hope that at least this development would have a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Well, I would move approval of 2107. Certainly, this is not going to be a single family. I know the school district would like it, but I think it's kind of a perfunctory thing. You're not going to put a single family in, and what has been there, I'm glad it's not there, and I'm thinking this will be an improvement. We have tried to put housing, mixed use, along the corridor of Main Street, and this fits in with that. So I wish you the best, and I would move acceptance of this.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, council? No further discussion. All right. I was kind of.
Mark shocked.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's like I hate giving away that commercial, but I love your point that Natural Grocers is right there. You don't have to go across the street.
You can walk to Denny's for breakfast. You go to Angie's.
What's
If you
the
take your life into your own hands.
It's not bad. And I appreciate your comment, Blake, also, knowing that has been sitting vacant for various reasons. It's very helpful. So thank you for
went by there
speaking up
several times, and anything will be an improvement.
Yeah. So, all right. All those in favor of passing resolution 21-07, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution passes. Congratulations. Next public hearing, Resolution 21-17, Aaron Smith, Public Art Action Plan.
Aaron's wearing his other hat.
There are many.
I know.
Switch them out.
You and the forester.
That's right. Sometimes Forrester and I have to rely on each other too to get things done, so.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Hello, council.
Hello, Aaron.
Hi,
Hi, Aaron. Hi. We discussed this a few weeks ago, and I'm happy to kind of go through it again real quick with y'all, but this is the action plan for our public art program. Really what we're going to do every year is kind of bring to the council what it is we're working on as a board and get buy-in from the council. So when we start throwing things up on the walls, you're not all surprised by it and wonder what are we up to. So the plan, it describes kind of a narrative of what's going on. It lays out the goals and objectives for the year. It proposes a budget and then the projects. So I'll just quickly kind of run through those. You know, we adopted the plan just this last year, so this is the first time we're really working through the process of presenting the action plan and moving this through. And hopefully what we're working on incorporates the values and the great planning that came out of the master plan that was adopted. The goals and objective really is kind of those first year growing pains for the board, finding out who we are and how we operate and getting through some first projects, and hopefully they're good ones, so we can set a good precedent going forward. But that's really kind of where the goals are, is working through those first year projects. The budget, there's a $10,000 line item funding that you'll see as part of your regular budgeting process, and then also a CDBG grant for $10,000, which you'll be reviewing as well, since you're the body that approves community development block grant funding. We'll also be looking at other grant options throughout the year, but those are the two main funding sources for this year we're proposing. And the two projects is one is a downtown placemaking project. So this would be looking at doing something downtown. It could be multiple media, including murals, sculptures, installations. I'll kind of go through some precedents of what those could be. So it would be geographically bounded. So we're really just looking at the area of downtown. Part of the call for art would specify that area, delineate it. And we'd be looking at public property, but also we began to have some conversations about private-public partnerships and looking at some of the various walls that are privately owned downtown and spaces that could be great sites for art as well. And we have great potential locations, you know, our Main Street, Center Street, sidewalk areas, the Center Street Promenade, our theater district. There's a lot of alleyways and sort of tucked away public spaces, as well as some parks like our Wayside. And then art precedent, you know, murals, 2D art that's up on walls or along the pavement, sculpture or installations that have a little bit more presence. And then even something that's trendy like augmented reality, where something, you know, pops up on your smartphone and it's geographically located and ties into a mural downtown. The other project is an Art in the Park sort of mural program. This is the community development block grant funding. This is to commission murals in parks that serve low and moderate income residents of Logan. So this is also geographically located based on census tract information to particular parks. We've identified a few the first year. Similar sort of media that can be used. Priority parks in the master plan that also qualify for CDBG funding are the soccer park or on LeGrand Street, and then Merlin Olsen Park are two that were proposed in that master plan for early sites to consider. So once again, here's the soccer park, open ball fields with a central concessions area. Merlin Olsen Park, historic parks in our Logan, plenty of walls, including the tunnels that we could look at as potential art locations. Then just again to those art presents, yes.
I'm surprised Willow Park is not right there with Marilyn Olsen. Is there a reason why?
It is. It didn't come up in the master plan as like a first spot to hit for a location for art. It qualifies and is another location that we could consider. I think just with the amount of funding, the ones they recommended as the first year projects. But on the short list that's included with the community development block grant application, it did make the other eligible park list. So if we continue this program, and I hope these are established as programs, so every year there'll be art in the park year 1, 2, 3, 4, and we continue with these, those would be an excellent location to consider. And then park precedent, once again, painting with facility buildings, painting panels, putting them up on walls, mosaic, 3D sculpture, that's more of a mural type installation. We've seen these as well. That's really the projects for the year and sort of where we're at as a board. I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed action plan for the year.
Any questions for Aaron? You're very thorough with your last presentation as well, so thank you. Thank you.
For the public, so the public.
We have looked at it a couple times. So.
Round 2.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. All right, let's open this up for public comment for Resolution 21-17 for funding consideration of a proposed resolution for the Public Art Action Plan. Any comments? Oh, we do have a comment.
Wendy Hassan from Logan. Just happy to say I've been watching the process all the way through. I'm on the committee and pleased with what I'm seeing and hearing and the enthusiasm.
So you are supportive then?
He's also a bus rider.
Yes, very good. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Wendy. All right, well, let's bring it back to council for action.
I enthusiastically endorse the acceptance of the plan.
And I'm even more enthusiastic as a professional in the arts myself. And I think the plan is great. Can't wait to get some of those installations going.
So we have been moved and seconded. All those in favor of Resolution 21-17, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. I know, thank you, council. All right, public hearing for Resolution 21-18, revised Logan Light and Power residential, commercial, and industrial electrical rate schedules. Mark Montgomery of Logan Light and Power. Anything to add to your last presentation?
No.
That we should know about?
He doesn't want to get up there.
I could see that in his eyes.
I'm happy to come answer questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mark? It is in the packet. We did cover it very extensively last time, so. Yep. All right. We will open it up, since Mark does not have any more comments, we will open it up for public comment as well, too. Now is your opportunity. Did we receive any emails, Teresa? I did not think so. All right. Seeing no comment from the public, let's bring back to the council for action.
I will move acceptance of resolution 21-18.
And I will second that.
21-18, resolution has been moved and seconded. Any further comments? If not, all those in favor of resolution 21-18, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 21-18 passes. It's approved. And our last public hearing for the night, resolution 21-19, Sakina with Parks.
Are you going to keep sitting too, or?
No, because he's in charge of rec, so he's like a physical active guy.
I would love to sit there and you want to just.
You explained the fees quite thoroughly last time. Did you want to just quickly hit the highlights?
I will make just one highlight because it was a note we brought up in the presentation, in the workshop session 2 weeks ago. And that was in regards to the part-time staff fee for these group reservations. In that meeting, we had noted that verbally that we were contemplating moving that from $12 an hour, which is where we have staff now, to $15 an hour, for which we are now experiencing in terms of the market. So that is the notation that we've made, or that is the correction we've made or changed to what you have in your packet. It was presented to both the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and the Golf Advisory Board. We did receive one comment, was not opposed with regards to the tournament room fee from a member of the Golf Board. But outside of that, everything is as it was presented.
Russ, we did ask the question 2 weeks ago, if you want to play pickleball, but you don't make a reservation, how do you know whether the court is reserved?
Show up. There are 4 courts that we keep without reservation there. What you might run into, though, if you take that risk, is that there may be somebody on that court playing, or any one of those 4 courts playing at the time you show up. We do have a practice that we also have signed on the outside of the courts, and it's a practice that's accepted by those who play, where you put your racket in that first slot. That signifies that you have the next court timeout, and typically it's within the hour.
But if you have 8 courts, right?
That's right.
So you've reserved all 4 of them for different times during the day. And people come to play, and how are they going to know that they can't play on those 4?
We'll book those through our reservation system. We also have a notification board out there at the courts that allow people to know that the 4 of the courts are reserved for whatever that period of time was that they reserve them for.
So similar to if you go to a park and the shelter
And
is
the
reserved.
pavilion
that
is
you-
reserved.
So if I reserved all of them and someone was on it, I could say, it says here that these are reserved for me,
Yeah.
and they would then, I'd have the authority to vacate them from the court.
Well, and so with that.
And I've got my paddle with me in case I need it.
With the organizers, those that reserve such, we encourage them to make sure you keep your copy of the reservation. If there is a problem, call us, and if you can't get it resolved, then we call Chief Jensen's staff.
Not the mayor, since your cell phone's available.
Well, I just wonder, I guess, because if I were a summer citizen, I'd reserve 7 to 8 every morning that I wanted to play. And then I'd be really irritated if some other summer citizen thought, well, I can just go out there and I don't have to make a reservation.
Yeah, and it's possible. I mean, we're using the pavilion as an example. It doesn't always happen, and most people that play know that most organizations that have this type of reservation system exists. But there's always the chance that we may come across something.
Yeah, because we've never had it before, right?
Right, this is new for us.
Yeah, you can, only a maximum of the 4 of 8 can be reserved at any time. So there's always 4 open courts. You just might have to wait for other people who showed up for open courts
Before
to
you
be
to
done.
finish.
All 8 of them will never be able to be reserved, correct?
That's right.
Okay. I'm just foreseeing,
No, I know.
we're gonna have an active summer citizen program and they like to play pickleball.
And they have rackets.
Kimber, you got a comment?
Well, see, we've been doing it with tennis, so it should be new to us. It's just pickleball, but
Yeah, the facility's new, and so this is why we put that policy in place, but. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm fine, if you guys are fine.
Great. Thank you, Russ. Yeah. We will open it up for public comment. If anyone has a comment on Resolution 21-19, now is your opportunity. Come one and all pickleball players.
No summer citizens here, obviously, yes.
Sounds like fun. Maybe we'll have to have a
It is fun.
council tournament.
Have you ever played pickleball?
I've not.
Not everyone.
Yeah, I haven't.
It's fun.
It does
Even
sound
old
fun.
people like me can play.
Okay, no public comment. We'll bring it back to the council for action.
Ernesto, your chance.
Your opportunity, Ernesto.
I'll move to approve the motion. Good.
Okay, very good.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of Resolution 21-19, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. All right. Moving on to our workshop items, we have Resolution 21-22. Rich Anderson, would you like to explain that one for us, please?
This is a request to appropriate $42,264 in our Communications Center Fund. This is from reserves, but really these are restricted COVID funds from the prior fiscal year that were unspent. And council's action here in appropriating these funds is just simply showing that these funds were spent during this year on COVID-related things. Most of it being new equipment that's hopefully more hygienic and other types of things.
Is that what it is?
You're making it is equipment that's cleaner.
It was equipment that was provided with COVID money and approved with COVID money.
Actually, what we did, we received these funds and they said, please spend them on appropriate things.
And we found appropriate things to spend them on.
Which has changed probably since the time COVID came out, but nonetheless, they applied at the time.
Any questions for Rich?
No, he did such a great job of explaining that.
So thorough.
I have no questions.
That was very thorough. Makes complete sense. Anyone? Okay. Workshop for Ordinance 21-08.
This person does not look like Cameron.
I was going to say. Paul, are you filling in for someone?
I am.
You're such a good boss.
I know we are also intrigued with cross connections and backflow preventers, so.
Good, I assumed you wouldn't be. Cameron is home with a sick family and sick himself, so I'm filling in. Hope he gets feeling better. You have in front of you in the packet the cross connection ordinance and the associated changes that are proposed. I give a very quick summary. We haven't updated this ordinance in over 10 years, and the cross-connection world continues to be regulated and changed at a state level and otherwise. So we are updating to be more in line with terminology and things like that in the state cross-connection program manual. Most of it is definitions and verbiage that has changed to be in line with that. Section 470 is a big one where we did add some teeth, if you will, when we have certified testers that do not meet the requirements and consistently do that, to restrict their ability to test in the city until they do meet those requirements. And those are the biggest changes. Are there any you have questions about or anything you'd like me to highlight?
So these testers are not city staff, they're outside agencies?
Correct, it's a private, they typically have their own business, and they are certified through the state of Utah to be a tester. And they're on a list provided by the state.
We just had
Do
ours
we have a
tested.
lot of people that are not currently qualified that are trying to do it?
The only ones that do it are qualified, well, meet the certification, have a certification. Whether or not they meet the requirements of filling out the form correctly, we don't have a lot, but there's a few that struggle with it. And we work through those. We have been for 10 plus years. I don't anticipate this being a big, but we have had the problem in the past. We said, while we're doing this, let's put it in there.
Okay.
So there's no longer a usage fee, that's just eliminated in section 1308, 490? Or is that substituted somewhere else?
No, that's good. So it is specified in the water department. We have a list of fees, tapping fees and different things. It is specified in there. So we took the number out of the code, so we don't have to change that every time in the code.
Okay, thank you. Always looking for money, Rich.
No. Any other questions for Paul? Thank you. Thank you, Paul. All right, workshop for Resolution 21-13. Russ Aquino will have you come back and share some more information with us, please.
Yes, Council, this resolution is in regards to a grant application that our department is applying for improvements to Willow Park Sports Complex. And the application has a May 1 deadline, but we're also submitting with the application a letter for the mayor to sign that alerts the grant folks that the process that they want us to follow, which is this, in providing minutes from an action in the form of a resolution, which you see here, that will come thereafter. And so for us to meet that process, part of this requires minutes from a public hearing, which would be done in 2 weeks' time. And after those minutes are approved by you, which I think is 2 weeks thereafter, right? Because they're not done immediately. Our letter that will go with the grant application to meet the May 1 deadline will indicate that those minutes are forthcoming. We're in the process right now of talking back and forth with the state and grant application folks in that process. But to get that going is why I'm here tonight, is to make you aware of that. The improvements for the sports complex involve the replacement of dugouts in all 4 fields, replacement of 2 infields, and a replacement of backstops and outfield fences. Project is estimated at about $300,000. The grant provides up to half of qualified expenses on this part. Yeah, it's $150,000. Is quite a lot of money.
Is one of the infields the southeast field?
Southeast field, and actually already has infield replacement, but the backstop will be replaced on that field.
I played on that one last year. It was like concrete, so just letting you know. There was no sliding allowed.
The other 3 fields are like that too.
Yeah, no sliding. Anybody that slid, they were thrown out of the game, so, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't feel good.
I mean, you had to run faster.
That's the way,
Yeah, yeah. Well, they weren't thrown out, they just had to go to the hospital, so.
Oh, jeez.
Lovely spot.
Okay, I was just checking. Thank you for that information. Yeah. All right, any other questions for Russ? Anyone?
No.
Russ, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Sounds like a great opportunity. All right, and last workshop item, ordinance 21-09. Our city engineers. Oh, Paul,
He's wearing all kinds of hats today.
I am neither Cameron nor Bill.
Well, it's all right.
There could be a song about that, you know?
Yeah, we will take that.
There could be a song about that.
From time to time, we have a request for vacation of utility easements. This is another one of those times. This request is located on the map in front of you. This is 600 West and 2200 North. This is located in the Airport Industrial Park. It's confusing, it's not at the airport, but it's called the Airport Industrial Park.
Because it's in the airport overlay zone.
Pardon?
It's probably in the airport overlay zone.
I'm sure it is, yes. And so what has happened is lots 2, 3, and 4 within this subdivision. This is the amended plat for that subdivision. And a closer view, lots 2, 3, and 4 have been purchased and owned by the same property owner who would like to combine those into one lot and is going through that process right now. As part of that, he'd like to vacate the public utility easement so he doesn't have an easement through the middle of the newly adjoined lot.
Do we move it? Does it get moved?
No, the easement gets vacated.
No, but doesn't there have to be some kind of an easement on that property to put the utilities in, no matter how large it is?
No, if he puts private utilities to his structure, he doesn't need an easement for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And to answer the question that used to always be asked, we don't see any value lost to the city with this vacation. I know he's not here, but somebody will carry the torch.
That was Herm's favorite question.
No, his favorite question was, what school district is it in?
No, yes.
It's a
That's a close tie.
Well, the other one was, is there any financial value to this little sliver of land? which we don't own.
No,
Any questions?
Nope.
pretty straightforward. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Paul, standing in for Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. Other considerations, we did have an email a couple weeks ago from Bronwyn O'Hara, and she has asked that we answer that publicly if possible. There were some questions about electrical vehicle charging stations, and they were answered, I hope, correctly or well by Emily. They answered well by Emily, all right. Your questions were that you noticed that there were charging stations at businesses, for example, Best Western at 250 North Main, Wilson Motors, Spring Hill Suites, Culver's. Does a person have to be a customer at these establishments in order to use these charging stations? Individual station owners set their own rules. Part of the reason we chose to go with ChargePoint is that our stations are public, and anyone looking for a station on that network would know it was public and the fee structure associated with it. This ties in with your question about the university. You would need to inquire with them about who is allowed to use their stations. I do believe that they have some public stations, and I do believe this information was viewable on the non-ChargePoint link that she sent over to you. Charging station on the Tabernacle block on 100 North, across from Church Street. Who manages that one? Never appeared on the two maps. Is this one the Downtown Alliance sponsored? If so, have they sponsored any more? The answer was the station is the one owned by the Chamber or Downtown Alliance. I'm not aware of any other stations that they sponsor, but that doesn't mean that they don't have them. I can really only speak to the stations that Logan City owns and operates. Next question is, there are 3 double charging stations at the parking lot for the Department of Workforce Services. Can anyone use those, or are they only for the DWS electric vehicles? Again, that question is for the station owners. I would guess that the stations at the state have some signage associated with them, but I've never been by their stations. According to ChargePoint, they are free and always open. From Emily. Trying to see if there are other questions. Is that sufficient, Bronwyn? We kind of like got everything covered. I know there's a couple of other questions in there, but I think hopefully we have answered those. So some very valid questions from Bronwyn about the public charging stations, and Emily was able to answer, it looks like, most of those questions for you. And hopefully there's a good resource online to try and find out where those stations all are. Anyone on the council, mayor, do you know anything about other stations that are becoming available? It's becoming more and more popular for
Discuss the possibility of when we redo the parking adjacent to City Hall with the library construction project, that we may put some charging stations in as part of that redo. But that hasn't been determined for sure.
Are there requirements with new construction, or is that just kind of elective for construction? Selective. Okay.
It is going to be something as a city we need to start to look at, though. I mean, there's certain areas and states already that are saying by, what is it, California, by 2030, they're not going to allow sale of any combustion engines. So I think, we should stay on top of.
And GM.
Let's not be California.
Yeah.
No,
GM,
but I think we will start to see.
I think GM has pledged that they're not going to sell any vehicles.
Well, a long time ago, I tried to get the city interested in putting them all over town, sort of like parking meters, only charging meters. But we only got one put in, basically.
Well, I'm assuming that Mark has looked at our electrical capability and whether or not we're going to have enough power available once this starts to happen more and more. But
you can operate your car while the solar. When the solar farms work, during the day, we'll have plenty of power. Otherwise, who knows?
Not so much. Yeah.
I have a couple things.
Oh, yes. I didn't say we are on other considerations, so if anyone has anything else to add.
I realized when we were discussing the election process, I had meant to mention, and I think we all probably, again, want to give our thanks to the election subcommittee that was put forward. I think their report gave us a lot of fuel for thought, and is part of why we're continuing to discuss this. So I was I had it on my list and I forgot to, so just again, thank you to that group. Gail, I know you were on that. It was great research, great input, and I think that's partially why we're still discussing it, is because of the work that you all did. So thank you very much, and I don't want them to think their work was not without meaning and is not of continued value to us as we look at that. I'm on the Bike Ped Committee. There is the Bike Week kickoff coming up on May 1st at the Bowery at the Fairgrounds from 5 to 8 p.m. There's going to be live music and a couple of food trucks, and it will give people the opportunity to be first in line to adopt a trail. So if you're interested in learning more about that, that is on the website, bikes.cashcounty.org, I think is the website link. So, but May 1st, 5 to 8, pray for nice weather. Kick off May Day with bikes.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Anyone else? Anything to add? Ernesto?
Just probably worth a mention is that in the Parks and Rec board, there is an ongoing discussion right now about what we're going to do with micro-mobility as far as citywide and countywide. So that is coming up. Nothing has been set in stone, but I'm assuming it will be happening sooner rather than later.
Very good. Thank you for the update. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll just say we had a little, on the wastewater committee, we had the tour of the sewage plant. And that was pretty amazing. It's big, it's very detailed. I tried to follow the process basically. It's very complex. This is something I think we can all be proud of as a state of the art. This will be the largest in the United States for the magnetite process. So we're going to get a lot of tours here.
It is so exciting. I love the science behind it. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, the science is amazing. Yeah. And thanks for Mark Nielsen for his excellent.
Yeah.
I've never complimented him before, but this is no. I think what I understand is it'll be physically completed this fall, and then you got to go through like 6 or 8 months of commissioning.
Yeah, testing and commissioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark has done an incredible job. Staying on time, on budget, everything.
It is a facility I think we should brag about slightly and let people know that this is a great place to come. It's a beautiful valley, and we recycle all of our waste.
Are you saying
recycle our waste?
Are you saying come here and enjoy our sewage?
Absolutely. I'm saying there are.
It gets turned into compost.
There are exactly. There are people that look, businesses that could be coming here that would say this is an amazing place, and look at how they recycle their waste that no one else wants. So,
this is the place.
This is the place. That's right. I love it. I love it. Okay, Tom, thank you for your comment. And if there are no other comments, we will adjourn our city council meeting. And we will.
Quick break.
Yeah, would you like to take a quick break before we reconvene our Community Development Block Grant Steering Committee meeting? All right, come back in 5 minutes, please. Will that give you enough ample time? All right, wonderful. Thank you, Amy, for the suggestion. Yeah.
It's CDBG. No, it's not. It is?
It was there. I read it.
Amy, I wanted to tell you, I will not kill something.
What were you snickering about over there, Rich?
Come the sewage plant tourist destination
of America.
Who is our stuff?
It's so cool though. But when you think about it, why should we not promote that every drop of water that comes into our system will go out the other end, clean and usable by whoever's downstream?
You could drink it.
We should, but we could, that's right. Well, we could basically, if we had to, pump it back and clean it, and a little bit more, and use it again.
All I know is I've been.
Not officially, at some point, maybe we had that water.
We haven't had anybody show up.
We'll see what happens.
Or
Thank
next
you.
meeting's on.
Oh, thank you.
I can go copy.
Good call, man.
Yep, get out of here.
All right. It didn't seem like it's pretty.
That is a great question. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I